Welcome to Military Veterans Podcast YouTube channel. Hi, I'm Gav. I'm the host of this show. If you're new here, please give it a subscribe. That really does help the show. Now, this is an annual recap from the previous year, which is year 3. It's crazy how time goes by so fast. But we've had a great year. We've had some amazing guests on the show. And if you have shared or commented or liked a video yourself, then thank you. That really has helped. Now, as I say, annual recap, we're going to have a quick look at some of a snippet from their episode. If you like what you see, jump onto the channel and find their clip, their video, and give it a watch, because there's been some really, really good advice and some great stories from the veterans. Anyway, year 3 has been great. Thanks again. And here's to year 4. Bye-bye.
The jingle trucks, I hated them damn things. Oh my gosh, those things were the worst. They freak me out. And only because I heard so many like bad stories about them. And every time a jingle truck would go by, I'd like freeze up and be like, please don't blow up on me. You know what I mean? Like some things terrified me.
Before you carry on, can you explain a jingle truck to people that are listening that may never have seen them?
Okay, a jingle truck is like a huge dump truck. Y'all have dump trucks out there, like trash can trucks type thing. So something
bin
of that
collector trucks.
Yeah, something like that size, but they have all these little hangy things on them that jingle. Like I almost want to say something like similar to like a wind chime. So they
That's
make
right,
those
yeah.
little noise. And so as they're going by, you just hear all these little wind chimes or these little noise jingling. And they're so full of stuff that you can't tell like what's really on them. And I know like when they go through the fobs and all that stuff, they get checked. But like I've heard some stories. So I was always nervous. Like, did they really check this thing?
Yeah. And those dangly things, they go down to the
Yeah.
ground pretty much, don't they? So
All the way, yes.
it's and they're
So,
colourful. Like it's
very colorful.
They're just weird. They're just weird.
I know, it's not something you see every day for sure.
So yeah, carry on with the so you came out, you saw them, and you were explaining how you kind of settled in.
Also, I realized that my fiance and I were nowhere near each other. So we thought, when I let him know that I was going out there, he's like, "Oh, you're too good for me," and all this other stuff. Like, because I volunteered to go. Like, who the hell does that? But I did. And he was in the Kandahar area, and I was in the Northeast in Jalalabad. And so he was not on Kandahar. They were building cops and fobs below or around Kandahar. But we were nowhere near each other. And so that kind of sucked. But I, said, I'm out here and make the best of it. I happen to be in the very same exact like office building, everything as my best friend Logan. We were on 2 different shifts, but it was cool because we were in the same office. So it was cool to like have her and know her. And, I threw myself into working out because there wasn't a whole lot to do, after work or anything. So I did that, and I threw myself into my job. So I worked in the personal readiness management section of HR. So we were working with the medics, and I tracked casualties when I got out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that must have been an eye-opener, right?
Yes. That was crazy, but it helped me mature a whole lot. I grew up real quick in Afghanistan, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
There were standout moments. The jungle was one where, as time went on, you got hungrier and hungrier, and rations that you'd have thrown away, like a tin of those biscuit
browns or something.
Oh, in the beginning you're just chucking them away. By the end, you'd have killed your granny for just one of those biscuits. And we sat down to a meal, our patrol. We'd gone, I think, 3 days without food, because we were supposed to pick up food from a cache. But a bit like the sketch map, it was somebody else's cache that they dug in and done a really awful map. So we never found the cache that was supposed to be our 2 days' rations. So we'd already missed a day, so we went 3 days. And one of our guys had a packet of these biscuits and a little tube of jam, and you watched that you got the right amount of jam on your corner of the biscuit. And that's how bad. that was a moment I remember. And also I remember in the jungle, you don't wash. So there's no toothpaste, no soap, no nothing. And your sense of smell becomes very strong.
Okay.
Your hearing and your smell get better. Your eyesight, not particularly bad. You have to use your eyesight. You have to learn to look through the jungle. But we had a chopper land. Once a week you got fresh food, and the chopper landed up on the top of the ridge. We were sitting down at the bottom in our little camp. And after about 10 minutes, it wasn't just the smell of the avgas that was coming down to us. It was the smell of the aftershave off the pilots.
Really?
And that really was an example of why you don't wash in the jungle.
Wow.
Because after a couple of weeks, you start to smell. But you're smelling like your environment. You're reeking of ammonia from pee, sweat. And the animals in the jungle, you don't see them in the first couple of weeks. But after 3 or 4 weeks, you start seeing little piggies walking past, and things will appear, and because you're no longer a strange presence in their environment.
Interesting.
So it was the hunger and that weirdness of the jungle environment, which you'd think was anathema or an anomaly in today's modern training, but it was absolutely vital to to test the sort of robustness and your compatibility.
The best thing I learned on selection was definitely the live firing and field firing, 4 6-man contact drills, and just doing things that the regular army weren't doing.
Okay.
And I'm like, right, this is good, this is cool, like this is what you joined for. And you know, we were cutting around with like 12 15 mags bombed up, and most guys carry 6, and you know, mag changes on the move, and doing all these like sexy pistol drills and stuff before guys even carry pistols. Like we used to use, when I first turned up, we were using the Browning high power pistol,
right? And
like the sat major in charge was like SAS, and he's teaching you how to shoot pistols between your knees and stuff. I'm like, this is fucking cool.
Nice.
Like, this is everything I thought it was going to be. And I think, that was the first time it was the first thing I did in the army, and I thought, this is fucking super cool. And all the time it was drilled into us, this is not what regular army do. Like, you need to be appreciative of where you are and the environment that you're in, and don't drop the ball, and you know, make sure you're worthy of the time we're putting into you and the money that the government's put. When that was always drilled into, like, the money the government is putting into turning you into a soldier now, you know, you can't waste it. So for me as a young lad, I was just like, right, I'm a sponge, whatever I need to do. Like, I don't want to go and do a normal job now. I don't want to go and do a muster parade. Like, we know the muster parades. Like, never. Like, I don't want to go and do that now. So I think just I still remember, like, when you pass, you get a picture of, we got a picture of the Cobbler, which is like a really high peak. And on the end of selection, on a test week, our last march is an endurance march, and it's 57 kilometres over 12 hours, I think it took. And the test week, for anyone who's interested in it, is you do day 1 to gain entry onto the course. You do BPFA, military swim test, 8 mile tab, and bleep test. If you fail any of those on that day, you're gone. And then you do basic military testing, like map reading tests and stuff like that. And test week, you do a 10 miler. It's got to be done in 1:45 in Scotland. And you do 18k, that's the next day. Next day, 22k. Known distance, unknown time.
Okay.
So I still now don't know what the time frame was or what time I got.
Yeah.
And then the last day is which are all individually led. So you get like 15-minute intervals, right? You can go now, right? You can go now. If the DS think you're on the Bergen train following someone in front of you, you get thrashed.
Right, yeah.
And you've got all checkpoint drills and stuff like that, and all these cost you time. So if you go in and you've got shit checkpoint drills, they'll fuck you off, and you've got to come back. But that's eating precious minutes that you don't have. And then the last day is an endurance march. 57 kilometres for us. 50 kilometres in, they stopped, and we all took our Bergens off, and I thought, right, we're done now. And then, but because you use your train on the terrain, I thought, we're not anywhere near the car park. Right, lads, get on the stretcher.
Now, if this is too difficult, you don't have to answer, but can you explain those times that you were injured and therefore received those Purple Hearts?
Sure. So the first time I was wounded was on Operation Cochise. I was trapped in a rice paddy. There was a tree line in front of us, and they were just spraying, killing my whole platoon in August. and anybody who came out to help us was eliminated. We were too close to the tree line to bring in artillery or to bring in helicopters. And but after being stuck out there from like 8 or 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, there was a lull in the firing, and I just made a beeline run for cover into another rice paddy further away, and I made it. And then as I started to crawl, they were shooting at me because I wanted to crawl from then on, keep a low profile. And they were dropping in these portable grenades that come out, and one of them exploded and put shrapnel in my left arm. And but I managed to come back. I didn't even know I was wounded until I came back behind the lines, and I was sitting there, and I guess there was blood running down my arm. And the corpsman came over and he took care of it. The shrapnel, he got it out and wrapped up my arm, and I stayed out in the field. That was the first time. And then when I was overrun in October, I managed to not be wounded in that engagement, but a few days later, I was on a patrol, and they were throwing grenades, and I got shrapnel in my back. And so I was medevaced out of the field, and they took the shrapnel out of my back. And then my third one was in the battle for C4, was the name of by the DMZ, and it was on January 19th, 1968. And it was a horrendous battle, and they were shooting at us and throwing grenades, and one of the grenades exploded and got me in the arm again. And I didn't even, the adrenaline flows, you don't even know you're wounded. When I had shrapnel in the back, I didn't know I was even wounded. I just thought I was sweating down my back. I thought it was just sweat was just running down. And I wanted to wipe the sweat away from my back when I got back. And I looked at my hand, it was all full of blood. And I go, oh my God, I got shrapnel. And so that I showed somebody. And I didn't actually feel the shrapnel until I got on the helicopter. And of course, I'm sitting in the seat, and I was leaning back, and I went, oh my gosh, that hurts.
Really, we've got the SAS and SBS. We have SRR as well, but they're the two, I guess, most known areas of the Special Forces. But I think it's slightly different over in the States. Is that correct? So when you say Special Forces, what area are you meaning?
Okay, yeah. So in the U.S., anybody that falls under the bigger umbrella of special operations are called SOF, Special Operation Forces. So that includes U.S. Army Special Forces, U.S. Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Air Pararescue, the Marine Force Recon, and actually they don't call it Force Recon anymore, they call it MARSOC, so Marine Special Operations Command. So that is all under the larger umbrella of SOF. So then U.S. Army Special Forces is specifically the Green Berets.
Right. Okay.
All right. So there's 4 primary specialties within Special Forces, as far as the team members are concerned, and these are they get all the attention because they do the work, right? So they deserve it. But the team members are the weapons specialists, the engineer / demolition guy, the communications guy, and the medic. As a minimum, you're going to be in training from start to finish. If you were to enter Special Forces from the street, with the intention of being a team member, with the basic training, with the whichever lesser school is going to feed into your specialty. So infantryman, engineer, communications, medical. So basic training, your initial training in the specialty airborne school, and then the Special Forces course. You're going to spend close to a year in training as a minimum, and it could be well over a year. At like your weapons guy that's going to be an infantryman, it's going to take him close to a year from the day one until he actually dons his Green Beret. The medical guy from day one to when he dons his green beret, it's going to be well over a year. And that's, okay, I'm qualified to be on a team. But from there, they go on to language school. They do cultural immersions, things like that. So really, you're looking from day one until training is completed, closing in on 2 years for the team member. I was not a team member. They're amazing, amazing soldiers. I was on the support staff as a parachute rigger, but the assignment was amazing. I loved it.
CEO was leaving, and he said, "Morning, Kerry." All first name terms, really weird. And he goes, "Some loggy promotion board on my desk if you want to have a look at it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I'll see who's on there, you know, because there'll be some of my mates on there." I've been there a year. And I remember going up to the CEO's office, the board's there. It's not to be released before Friday at 9 o'clock, and it's like Tuesday morning, but SFCO, who cares, you know? I remember opening it up and going, oh yeah, Andy, oh yeah, Billy. And then I went, fuck, me, you know, I'm on there. I was like, oh, this is a wind up. I thought the CEO was winding me up. He's reprinted this. You know, it's a bit of banter because they were very good at banter between, you know, setting people up, letting off numerous explosions around the sort of, you know, the TA centre we were in. There was always a bit of a giggle going on. But yeah, promoted literally within a year and a half. And you've never met a man ever so disappointed and heartbroken that he was promoted staff sergeant in your life. I literally was begging, going, I don't want to go. And they're going, well, you're posted. I was well, can I be posted like in a year and a half? And they were like, no, you got to go now. I was like, honestly, heartbroken. Heartbroken.
Was there like an inkling to try selection because of the people around you, maybe? Yeah,
yes and no. I think I was really true to myself, right? And so without being harsh, I'd met guys when I was down in brigade, and people watching this will know these guys. You get people that will say, oh yeah, I've been on selection, mate. And you think, yeah, but you were never going to pass. But what they'll do is they'll go on their course anyway. They'll turn up, they'll do a day, 2 days, a week at best, and then they get binned. But then for the rest of their army career, everybody goes, hey, do you know Gav? He's been on selection.
I haven't.
No, for the record. But, you know, you would get that conversation. I just thought to myself, there's no way, you know. I mean, I thought physically I'm all right, but my soldiering was shit. You know, I mean, I couldn't map read for toffee, if I'm honest. You know, I mean, God knows how. I mean, when GPS got invented and we could buy handheld GPS devices, that was me. I was in heaven. So I thought, well, you can't map read. Your soldiering's average at best, even for, you know, for a powertrain guy. You know, you've just not got it in you.
Fair enough. That's good that you were honest with yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
That's good.
Yeah.
But then gutted that you got promoted and had to be posted.
Yeah, devastated. But again, you know, nice chapter. Got to, you know, meet people who have got really good SF credibility. And I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. We all know that now there's a lot on the telly and everybody's very open and honest about it. But, you know, I think if we're brutally honest, a lot of those guys that is this stereotypical civilian image of the SAS, you talk to blokes that are actually in, and there's, you know, there's different leagues, I think you'll find, you know, within the organisation. I work with some of the best, some people with some really strong regimental credibility, you know, whose names you'd probably never heard of.
Yeah.
So good boys.
They said it was a legacy device, so it'd been there for days, weeks, months, whatever. That there was no ground sign. You wouldn't have known it was there. And then me being the lead call sign on the way back, set off this IED, and then ruined my day. So my vehicle got blasted 10 feet up, and then I carried on going another 40 feet.
Wow.
And came down to earth with a thud. And I kind of remember the dust of it, but then I don't know if I blacked out afterwards, but then I remember my friend coming across, and he's shouting at me. He's like, Murray, you all right, mate? You all right, mate? So I rolled over and I was like, flicked my helmet off, and I was like, fucking hell, Nick, what's happened? He's like, you've been blown up, mate. It's a bloody big one. You should have seen your face. I was like, sorry, mate. I didn't think to give it the thumbs up as I was going up through the air. But we were just kind of chatting like we are now. I was like, fucking hell. And he came up to me. By this point, the driver's still in the driver's seat. The passenger, there was a guy in the passenger seat, and he got blown from inside the vehicle to the back half. How he ended up where he did, I have no idea whatsoever. But, you know, he did. And then, yeah, they started doing all the first aid, and we then started getting indirect fire from the Taliban. The paras, it was like a scene from Apocalypse Now or something. Just literally grab their rifles, helmet, body armor, nothing else. So they're like, you know, without, as we were talking about before, the uniforms for the British soldiers, you know, you had to be like trousers, shirt, you had to have all the long sleeves and all that from flash fires and all that sort of shit. None of that. Just came out with their flip-flops, body armor, helmet, and then just, you know, started smashing into the Taliban. So it allowed everything to sort of get sorted out. And it wasn't until I was picked up onto a stretcher that my feet, all the bones in my feet, because they were like just smashed to pieces, my feet just kind of dropped down. And that was my first real moment of like extreme pain. Mm-hmm. And then it was at that point they realised, they were like, oh, fuck, his feet. So they supported my feet. But then I don't know if that makes it worse, because my feet are now hanging, to then pick them back up. And it's like, oh, fucking hell. So they got me onto the stretches, but then every single bump back to Bastion, I felt it. And I was trying to be a man about it. I say be a man, but I didn't scream or anything, but I was just kind of, I was gritting my teeth.
What that looks like is a bunch of Afghan jingly trucks, you know, the old colourful cattle wagons turning up just pre-dawn, driven by local nationals, Afghans, Taliban or Taliban sympathisers, or ordered by the Taliban to come and get us. And we all jumped, you know, all of us jumped on these wagons, all British troops jumped on the wagons, and the Taliban drivers out of Musakala for a few hour drive into the desert, where a bunch of Chinooks waiting to take us back to camp. That's what that was. And that was what this will not be spoken about was all about. You know, where you don't, when you hear stories of those kind of withdrawals, or the enemy escorting you out of somewhere, they're like Second World War stories. You know what I mean? And that happened in 2006. And I mean, it seems normal to me that came about. I understand how the situation came about, but also you think, Jesus Christ, man, it was crazy. It was crazy. I remember I developed insomnia during that time in Musakala. I think it was down to just the stress, like just the extreme stress of the situation, just dealing with the situation. It was very very stressful. And I wouldn't be able to sleep. And they wouldn't attack at night. They wouldn't attack at night. Like last light, and just after that's up until about then they would attack. They'd attack through the day. So all those attacks, like however many it was in a day, up to 10 on the worst days, they would all happen in the daytime. Nighttime was pretty relaxed. We'd still be staggering on, and we'd still be expecting something, but you wouldn't get interrupted if you went to get your head down. You know, and every time I went to get my head down, I couldn't sleep. I'd be up all night wandering around. And so I hadn't slept for weeks. And that morning when the jingly trucks came in, we were like, what the fuck is going on? And Jared jumped in the back, a couple of other British soldiers jumped in the back of the jingly, and I got in the front with the commander, what am I on about? With the driver. And it was the Taliban driver, and behind him was another not Taliban. There's an Afghan driver. I don't know if he was Taliban or not. And behind him was another Afghan, who maybe was his co-driver. I don't know. Sat behind him, but I was sat in the front of this, pistol under my thigh with my hand on it, ready to go. We literally didn't know who these people were. Didn't know what was going on. All we'd been reassured was that we'd be driven out. We'd been reassured that the route through the town will literally be picketed by people, Afghans, Taliban or not, either side of the road, to prove that we're not going to blow you up, because we'd be blowing up our own people too. So as we drove out, there was people picketing either side of the road.
It's the pinnacle of leadership training and education, because it breaks you down. You get one meal a day, a couple hours of sleep at night, and then you're forced to lead under those conditions. And so it's the mountaintop, save for combat of leadership. And so those that decided not to do that were kind of looked upon like, okay, why wouldn't you want to be the very best you can be? Why wouldn't you select? So it was just always an automatic thing for me that yeah, I was going to do that. And I wanted it. I mean, I looked up to these guys that had Ranger tabs and had gone through that training and come out the other end. And that was a mountain I wanted to climb.
Mm. Okay. So can we break down that a little bit? So Ranger School, is that the correct
Yep.
terminology?
Correct. Yep.
One, how long is it? And two, as an officer going there, are you still doing the same training course as the other ranks, or do they segregate you?
No, it's you're all the same. You strip off your rank, your name tag, everything. I mean, you are
Cool.
just.
Okay.
I think all I had was my name tag in U.S. Army, and I had nothing on my uniform. And so we were all equals in that course. And of course, they begin to break you down. They test you physically, they test you mentally. They start to break your body down, with 1 meal a day and lack of sleep. And then they assign us leadership positions. Okay, Campbell, you're the patrol leader today. And then they watch us perform under those conditions.
Okay. And how long did you say that was?
It was about 100, I think it was 120 days. I think it's a little different now, but there were 4 phases in Ranger School when I joined. The first phase was Benning phase, they call it. It was Fort Benning, Georgia, and that's where you did the physical part of it and got integrated into the course. Went out and did some patrolling there in the Georgia woods, and then there was Mountain phase, which was northern Georgia. Then there was Florida phase in the Florida swamps, and then there was desert phase out in Utah. Now they don't do desert phase anymore. But yeah, that was the different phases, so you could lead and operate in different environments.
Okay. Is there anything from that Ranger School that stands out to you, like a task or a part of that training that you still remember today?
I think it was just having to push through under fatigue, where, you get that every now and then. You're just dead tired, right? It's middle of the night, or it's a Friday afternoon, or whatever it might be. And you've just done a lot and you're just physically, mentally exhausted. But you don't have any choice but to put through that and to push through that. And so I can remember several times where I really had to reach down and pull something out of me to say, okay, take the next step, step up and get moving here.
We heard the airplane at full throttle. And because the Pentagon is situated close to Reagan Airport, you hear airplanes on full throttle all the time, but you hear them go to the full throttle and then the sound diminishes as they take off. This was an airplane on full throttle where the sound was increasing, not diminishing. So, yeah, it's headed here. But from the point where we heard the airplane to the point where it hit the building, maybe 10 seconds, I guess at the time. It's kind of fuzzy. Over the years, I keep changing my guess because I think about how it could have been. But it was single-digit seconds. And then big boom. And the building shook a little bit. It wasn't like the World Trade Center because it wasn't vertical. It was, made of stone and 5 levels high, so much more stable. And so a few of us started running down the corridor once we realized we were alive, towards the point of impact. We got to a point where we couldn't see or breathe anymore, but I could kind of see sunlight, which is bad, because you weren't supposed to see sunlight. It meant there was a hole in the building. So ran back the way I came, ran down the stairs to the ground level because I was on the 4th floor, and then ran to the point of impact from the outside. Of course, then at that point you could see pieces of the plane, see it burning, see people scattered on the ground, things like that. So that's kind of where the memory kind of all jumbles together, because we did a few rescues and evacuated some people from near the building, tried to see inside at the airplane, could see the engines, could see the landing gear. You could see some seats from the airplane, but inside it was, couldn't see, that day, couldn't see any bodies. After the fire was put out, I had to go back in to start kind of measure where the Navy Command Center, because the Navy Command Center was in the area that got hit, kind of outline for the investigators where the Navy Command Center had been. And this is before the bodies had started being recovered. So I did see seats with bodies and and some of my shipmates, to use the Navy expression, some of my friends that were killed in there. But that day, during the time where we were doing rescues and stuff like that, you know, only could see burning wreckage and really couldn't see in far enough to see anything but burning wreckage.
So when it started getting a little bit hairy out in Iraq, you know, they used to start cutting like old ships and stuff like that to float downriver to try and take these bridges out.
Right. Okay.
You know, so we had to keep a close eye on that. So the amount of times we get a call out and we'd have to dash up the river in the middle of the night and stop this old knackered tugboat from drifting into this pontoon, because that's where the main supply routes would cross. You know, yeah, we did quite a lot of those. And there was this floating crane up there between the palace and where the hotel was. Big, massive floating crane, right? Always used to get cut loose to try and take out these bridges. The amount of times I've pushed that around back into the side. I lost count. But it was quite a good fun tour. Really enjoyed that tour.
What year was that?
That was 2003 to 2004. So over the winter.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so that was quite good. But always knew when the SAS used to use our boats quite a lot for patrols and stuff like that. So we gave them a little bit of training and stuff. You know, showed them how to use them properly and all this sort of thing. And then they would go out, borrow a couple of boats and go out and do their thing, right? But you always knew roughly where they'd been the night before, because you go out on patrol the next day and then you just get a load of incoming coming at you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, you know, thankfully, you know, they weren't that good a shot, and trying to hit a boat that's doing 30-odd knots 150 metres away from you is quite difficult, you know. But yeah, so that, you know, that was a little bit hair raising now and again.
Yeah, no, I really.
So you enjoyed Afghan? To a certain extent.
I enjoyed. So one thing I've never really told my wife anything. The first time I saw a dead body was in Afghan, and it was someone was being taken off the back of a helicopter. They were carrying him, and I can't remember if he was a Brit, if he was an Afghan. I think he was Afghani, but obviously he had a massive beard. But anyone can have a massive beard in Afghan because everyone just grew their beards. Could have been an SF guy. I don't know what he was. I just remember them picking up this limp body. They're putting him down. They put a bag on him. That was it. I remember, and I remember being in a squadron, and I was in the hangar, and I looked around, and there was no one there because everyone was in the office bit where there's aircon, and I was thinking, mate, what the fuck did I just see? It's the first time I've seen a dead body. Like, I mean, some people who served have seen more dead bodies than anything, but it's the first time I'd seen one. I was thinking, oh mate, do you know what I mean? It threw me back a little bit, and then there's been times where I'm on top of a Sea King or on the rotor blade or something, or the tail rotor, and I'm fixing something, and you get the Afghan National Army come off the helicopter, and they'll sit in your hangar because it's cool, out the sun, but they've all got weapons on them. I've got a spanner. I'm like, mate, any of these guys can you know, have their family kidnapped. They can just turn a weapon on the Brits. Mm. I'm there trying to work on an aircraft while I've got the ANA right next to me, sitting on the floor with their AK-47s. I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? But, you know, you try to speak to them. I've seen guys come off helicopters with bags on their heads. I don't know who they were. You never know. And then you find out a month later, yeah, he was like the 8th most wanted in that village or on that. I was thinking, what the hell is going on? It's crazy how when you come back, you tell these stories or you think about it, you think, I'm trying to pick whether I want Cocoa Pops or Kellogg's tomorrow or Frosties. And then I've seen that last month. I was thinking, what on earth? It's just such a different lifestyle.
Yeah, like a reality check, isn't it?
And massive. And I'm seeing guys who've been out there, you know, tankies who'd come into Kandahar. They've been out for the last 3 weeks living in ditches. Do you know what I mean? They and you expect this person to come back to the UK and just act like as if... And this is why there's so many people who have mental health problems.
Yeah.
Because it's just a quick, rapid change.
Yeah, yeah. And
Do you know what I mean?
especially like sometimes people don't feel like they appreciate it from our eyes.
No,
and
no.
they're arguing about, I don't know, not getting the right milk in their Starbucks or whatever.
Mate,